Okay, good afternoon. We're going to go ahead and get started. We don't want to keep anyone, try to make sure that we keep this within the time frame that we have set today. I know you're all very busy, so I'm going to turn it over really quickly to our Assistant Director, Miss Brandy Ishman.
Well, good morning. Well, no, good afternoon. 1 minute into the afternoon, everyone. I hope everyone is staying warm and making plans for the weather that's going to be coming in. Make sure you got all your milk and your bread. My husband was telling me that the stores were pretty bare already yesterday. So we want to welcome you all to our first Arkansas Better Chance provider call. And I'm going to start off with quick introductions this morning. You can go to the next slide. My name is Brandy Ishman. I'm one of the assistant directors here at the Office of Early Childhood. We're also joined here by Ms. Kayla Bodie, who is our ABC program administrator. We have Ms. Cindy Ingalls, who is our program eligibility supervisor. And then we have Ms. Miracle Lee and Ms. Letitia Connors, who are our ABC program specialists that are joining us here today. You're going to be hearing a lot about the new rules that are going into place and just some things we want to make sure that everyone is aware of in regard to the Arkansas Better Chance program. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to our ABC program administrator, Ms. Kayla Bodie.
Okay, thank you, Brandy. So all of my team, Cindy, Miracle, and Letitia, they're going to be kind of monitoring the chat box. If you have questions throughout today, you can add those to the chat box. We'll make sure and have some time at the end to go over those questions. I'm really excited to be here. I've talked to a lot of you on the phone and through email, so it's nice to kind of see everyone kind of face to face. And so I am the program administrator over the ABC program, and I have been in this position since around September. I came from the early childhood field. I used to operate an ABC program and an early Head Start program. So I worked as a teacher in an ABC program. So I do have experience in the field. And so I just want you to know that so that whenever you're emailing or you're calling and you're asking questions, I'm always kind of keep it in the back of the mind that I can empathize with what you're going through. So I understand. I know many of you wear a lot of different hats in the field. So thank you for taking time out of your day to be here. So I know you're very busy. We are going to go ahead and get started. We do have everyone's contact information on the screen, but I am also going to go ahead and add this same contact information to the chat box so that you'll have it. Just feel free to grab that. You can reach out to us anytime. And so we are going to go over just briefly the agenda for today. We've already done introductions. We're going to go over a couple of different reminders and just some updates that we've made here with the ABC program and the website. And then we are going to get into the updates to the rules governing the program that have just recently changed in December and gone into effect January 1. So we will get into that towards the end of the call, but first I wanted to kind of go over just some housekeeping and some updates. The first thing that we really just want to talk about today is the COPA support mailbox if you're not already utilizing this. And I'll have my team put this email address also in the chat box so you can copy and paste that. And this training and all these slides will be available on our website later. If you need to go back and you get a copy of these slides with the links, and you can also watch it back if you have to leave for any reason. But we really would like for programs to utilize COPA support if you are not already. And I know that that name implies that it's only for COPA, but really you can email that with any ABC related questions. If you have a question about eligibility, if you have a question about where to submit reports, anything along those lines, please feel free to send it to that mailbox. The reason being is that myself and all of our team have access to this email, so we can get you a response quicker. This is new for some of my staff, so we're still learning. So give us a little bit of grace on the mailbox if we don't get back to you immediately, but we do try to make sure that we get back with you the same business day. And so again, if you will use that mailbox, that will help us out a lot. And the next thing I want to share with you is we've made some updates to the ABC website. I do have it linked here. And I also just wanted to point out that there's going to be some new documents here. You'll see the new waivers, the SQPs. There are some fillable forms. There's child waivers. And there's a couple of other things that we've changed to fillable to help you all so that you're not having to print and handwrite all of those. You can fill it in and then you can print that out and sign it with you and your staff. So there's definitely some fillable sections there. We've also added a training section that you'll notice on the website. That's where these will be posted. And all of that is live today. So if you go to the ABC section of the website, we've made those changes and we'll continue to put updates there for you, any forms. And if there's any kind of form that you think to yourself, we really need this changed or updated, feel free to send me an email anytime with those suggestions. We are definitely trying to update and upgrade everything that we have. And I see there were some comments that if anyone's having any problems with their camera or their audio, definitely log off and log back in if you're having those issues. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and start talking about some reports. Most of you are already aware, but there are 2 reports that are due at the end of January. We would really like for those to be submitted January 30th, but I know 31st is the end of the year. So please just make sure that they're in by the 31st, the very end of the month. We just want to have the same date for both of these progress reports. And the first one of
Why can't I hear anything?
them, yeah, I would, if
Keep
you,
going, Miss Bodie. I got it.
okay. If you will make sure that those staff qualification plan progress reports are submitted. This is only if you have staff that are on an SQP. So if you do not have any staff on an SQP, you can ignore that. And then the mid-year expenditure reports, those are also due at the end of January. So please get those submitted to us. There's lots of different questions that may come up. You can always send us an email to the COPA support if you have a question about either one of those. Please submit them to the COPA support mailbox. And you can find both of those templates have been updated and they are on our website. So we have the link there, but I'm going to also just add the link to the website there in the chat box so that you have that and you can grab those forms. Okay. So I also want to take some time and talk about the monitoring procedure and what monitoring is going to look like for your program over the remainder of the school year and going into the next school year. And so, as a lot of you know, there are no longer ABC specialists that are assigned to your site. So we have the team that's here. We all can assist you with program-related questions. We can all assist you with support. And Letitia and Miracle are going to be doing monitoring of your programs. So we are no longer going to be coming on site to do those monitoring visits traditionally as they have been done in the past. We will be doing desk audits. A lot of you probably experienced that during the COVID time period when people weren't going out in the field. And so we will be doing the desk audits is what they're formally called, but it's going to be a little bit different. We may be requesting some documentation and we will notify you the dates that your audit will be happening. And then we will give you a list of the children's names that we will need to be reviewing. Most of the information that we are going to be monitoring for is already in the COPA data system. We just need to make sure that everyone's keeping that up to date. Your staff information, degree information, most of that is already going to be in the COPA system. We're just going to be pulling reports, reviewing. And if there's something that we're looking for that's missing, we may, we'll have you update that information. But there are some documents that you will need to upload to COPA. So out of your child files, things like referrals, we may be looking at income, like eligibility information, things of that nature. So we are going to give you very specific, detailed list of what we need, time frame, how many days you'll have will be dependent on how many children you have at your site. If you've got a site that has 700 children, obviously you're not going to be able to get all of those files uploaded that day. So we're going to give you a time frame. We're going to give you specific instructions on what we want you to upload to COPA. Everything will be coming to an email to you. We'll also call you. Letitia and Miracle will be with you every step of the way of that monitor process. So I'm really excited about this. I think it's going to be really helpful for programs. This is something that we have worked here at the Office of Early Childhood to lessen the footprint in our programs. You're already being monitored by licensing, so we're trying to take out some of that double monitoring. If they've already been at your program and looked at ratios and teacher files and staff files, we don't need to double check those same items. And so we are excited about this change. This is brand new. So again, give us some grace for these first couple of monitors that we do. We will definitely be seeing what works and what does not work. So we're excited about that. And I do see there is some questions. So I see Brandy's been answering those. And someone did ask about the mid-year expenditure report. Yes, those forms are on the ABC website. And I put that link, if you go up a little bit in the chat, you can go to that link. On the left-hand side of our website, under ABC, it says forms and documents. Those should all be updated. And this is another section that we want to talk to you about. So waivers, whether it be for child, staff qualification plans, all of those forms are updated on our website. But we do have a new waiver that we want to talk to you about. This waiver is not yet on the website because it is brand new. It will be. And we can also send it to you if you need it right now. You can email us at that COPA support. You can email me directly or any of our team. So we have a new staff waiver. This is a little bit different than an SQP. It's a little bit different than if you're wanting to implement a long-term or short-term sub for someone that's going to be out. This is specifically going to be for programs that need some assistance meeting your staffing pattern requirement. So if you have multiple different classrooms, multiple different sites, and you're needing to meet the lead teacher requirement, after you have 4 classrooms, you have to have a lead teacher with a bachelor's degree and a teaching certificate or a teacher license. If you're not able to meet that, whether it just be because you cannot find staff to meet those qualifications, you're having a hard time competing with the salary, and so you're just not able to find someone with a bachelor's and a teaching license. A multitude of different things can happen in scenarios. We have created a waiver where you can request to waive that requirement. So we do have some programs that have reached out and they're concerned about being able to meet that. And when you have multiple classrooms and multiple sites, that can get really tricky, especially in some of our smaller communities where maybe you don't have a large employment pool. So we do have this as a new waiver. You can keep an eye on our website, but if you have a need for that immediately, please reach out. You can email me or the COPA support, like I said, or any of our team, and we can walk you through that. We want to work with you to find ways to come up with a solution for your program. And so we are excited about this. Like I said, brand new. We just finalized the template for the waiver this week. And so we're excited about this as well. Okay. And I see a question about paras and an SQP. I'm going to let Cynthia answer that in the chat box. She can respond to you, Kayla, about that. And then we'll kind of get started on some of these updates. So we are getting ready to go into updates on the rules that have changed. And so these are effective January 1. They were changed December, I believe, was when the finalized plans or the rules came out. And I do have it linked here on the slides, but I'm also going to put this in the chat box just in case you have not already had a chance to look over those. And then we'll get started. Okay. And remember, if you have questions, put them in the chat. And if you don't get an answer right away, at the end, I'm going to go through and make sure we answer questions. So, okay, so the very first update that we want to talk about, and there's several updates throughout the rules, but these are just really the ones that stick out, and we know that there are going to be questions, and we're going to have to fine tune them. So programs operating less than 178 days. So currently, programs, you have to continue to provide 7 hours a day for that to be considered a full day. The extended hours do not count as additional days for funding, so you can't go, extra minutes or anything like that to go over 178 days for additional funding. Your funding is based on the number of days that you are in school, and any days less than 178 days will be prorated based on the daily rate. And so that daily rate will be just set by dividing, the per child amount. And so this really does help with programs that maybe at a school district and you're hitting a little under the 178 days. You will be able to go 160, 165, whatever your school district calendar looks like. You just will only be paid for that amount of days. So if you choose to go less than 178, that was not an option in the past. It is now. You just won't be paid for the full 178 days. So as you're thinking about your calendars going forward into the next school year, I know we're going to talk about inclement weather a little bit later because I've had a lot of questions about inclement weather because we all are probably everyone's going to get snow or some kind of winter weather in the next couple of days. And this is, kind of one of those things where we want to work with you all. And like I said, I know that some of you all hitting those 178 days is a challenge. And so this gives you a little bit more wiggle room on your calendars for next year. And of course, this is in effect now. So if you have any changes that you need to make or you have questions, please reach out and we will work through it together. So the next change that is another, I think this is a positive change for programs. So instead of 30 hours, paraprofessionals will only be required to get 15 hours a year. They do still have to be on, early childhood topics, but they are only required to get a minimum of 15 hours. And so Ms. Jones, you would want to build this for your calendar for next year. Yeah, you would want to build this for next year, not for this current year. And we're going to talk about how this kind of applies to inclement weather in a few more slides, but you would want to look at next year, not this current year, since we're already in January. And yes, I know I've seen a couple of people ask, so these slides will be posted on the website so that you can review them and you can go into the links that are there. but it will be posted on the website. So another couple of things that I wanted to talk about, and I know that we've had a lot of questions about terms that have changed. If you've read the new rules, you probably noticed that COPA was taken out, work sampling was taken out, and ECHRs were taken out. So I just want to make it clear that we are not planning to change the use of work sampling or the use of COPA in this current moment. In the future, we may upgrade to a different system, or we may change from using work sampling to another data collection system. And then with ECHRs, we're piloting class right now, so ECHRs could change in the future as well. And changing these terms is simply just so that if we do need to make those changes, we can change those in the program guide and we can push that out to you quicker. So we're not doing away with work sampling. We're still using COPA. The terminology has just changed. So instead of COPA, you'll see it say the State Data Management System. That's the terminology. It's just making those terms a little more broad. And then talking a little bit about ECHRs. So, class is being piloted across the state, and it's a very exciting system. If you have not taken a class training, I would highly recommend that you look at the PDR registry, look for class trainings. I have also linked the class resources page and their contact information here at OEC. And I would recommend that you go there and kind of familiarize yourself with class if you're not a part of the pilot program, just so you can kind of get an understanding of what it looks like in comparison to ECHRs. Most people really prefer it, and so it's an exciting change, and we'll see what it looks like once the pilot is over. But there are some trainings that are available already. I know if you go to the class website, there's a calendar with upcoming trainings. And then I've seen some that were listed a little bit further out. There is the infant, there's, the toddler and preschool. So there's different trainings for all of the different ages. And again, if you have any questions, you can contact our OEC staff about class. And hopefully, any of you that are in the pilot, you may have some feedback that you can share as well. Oh, my slides went away. Let me fix that. Okay, I think we're back. Okay, so we've talked about class, and I will get to the chat box kind of once we get closer to the end. Probably more questions. So the last slide before we get into questions is enrollment-based funding. So this is going to be a change that you will see in COPA. This is a change that will happen in February, and it'll go into effect in time for January, for you to bill for January on February. I guess it'll be the 6th. I have to look at the calendar, but it will go into effect in February. So in the rule, ABC funding award is based on the projected enrollment from the previous year's October enrollment. We sent out a lot of letters letting you know if your enrollment was not full, if it was hitting below 100% or 85%. And we started looking in October. We went throughout December. And so we are looking at that, and we're making those predictions for the recommendation for next year. This is not a new process at all. This is how the rules have always been set, but programs will be paid monthly based on enrollment and the number of days offered. And so again, we're going back to what the process looked like pre-COVID. I know a lot of changes happened during that time. And so we're going to go back to the way that it has always been. And these aren't necessarily new rules. These haven't really changed, but we're just going to go back to implementing them. So Your monthly payment will be based on your enrollment, and it'll be based on the number of full days offered. And that's again where we're looking at, if you are going less than 178 days, now you have that option. You just won't be paid for those days that you're not there. And then again, we will just be monitoring enrollment and attendance throughout the year. We will base it off of October, but we do know that there are sometimes enrollment numbers change, and sometimes maybe kids are not all into the system in time. And so we'll be looking at those throughout the year. And of course, if you have, questions about enrollment or eligibility, or if you need to create a plan with us around enrollment, we're happy to set up a Zoom call. We can work with you and determine if there's a way to maybe move some of your slots around. We can convert slots if you have a home visiting program to center-based. So there's a lot of different options that we have if you're concerned about enrollment. And so I am going to go to the chat box and we'll start going through some of the questions. Let me go back up to the top. And I see a question about PD. Make sure that I answer all of these. So, let's see. 4 classrooms with one of the 4 teachers having a provisional license. She will have her standard license this summer. So yes, and Charlotte, in that case, we can do, that's like a situation where you would want to do an SQP. So you have a staff that's in the process of getting their qualification. And the new waiver that we have is really for those programs that are just not able to find someone with a license to fill that slot as a lead teacher. And sometimes we have people that have worked in the classroom for several years. They have a lot of training, and they just simply don't have that degree or that license. And so they would still be a great lead teacher, and you may not be able to find someone that you can in your budget pay to be a lead teacher. And so that's what that waiver is for. But yes, it just sounds like an SQP would be more of a good fit for you. But if you have any questions about that, send me an email. We can go through that. Does ABC Programs use School Readiness Portal? If so, are you supposed to be uploading? So Nikki, you will continue to use the ABC portal. The School Readiness Portal is for your children that are getting CCDF, School Readiness Assistance. So you are still going to continue to use COPA as normal and do your billing in COPA as normal for your ABC children. And then Katrina asked about home visitor professional development. So no, the changes were not made to the home visiting section for professional development. The only change was the paraprofessional verbiage. And Gaia, so the waiver is not only for multiple classrooms. You can submit a waiver if you're having a hard time meeting that lead teacher requirement. You would just need to submit supporting documentation, and we have that on the waiver. But and you can get with us and we can walk through kind of what you're facing. But usually it's multiple classrooms is where they're having those issues, but definitely reach out to us and we can help you. It's not just about multiple classrooms if you're having a hard time meeting that lead teacher requirement. Professional development hours for next year. Yeah, so these requirements go into effect immediately January 1. So as far as, and Brandy, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but if they go into effect now for January, then the PD hours are an immediate effect.
Yes, that's correct. Our rules are already in place, the new rules, and I believe Kayla has sent those out to everyone, and the link to those new rules are in our website. And they actually say December 1 was the effective date for those new rules. Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So, so if you've got paraprofessionals that are in the middle of, trying to meet those professional development hours, and they have 15, then yes. I think that was already adjusted. Yes, Angel. So, if you're not meeting the 178 days, so that really will go into effect more for the next school year. Um, yeah. But you are going to notice a change in the billing system. So when you're logging in, you will notice a change when you log into billing. You'll bill just like you normally will for your children. But if you're not hitting the amount of days, let's say you've got less children than you did last month, then you'll see that change. And the amount in COPA will be correct. It'll show you on the right-hand side the per child amount and how much the total is at for the month. Make sure. Snow days. And so, yes, that is something, we'll talk about snow days now. So if you have snow days, which most of you are going to have snow days, we do have a template that you can submit that gives us the options that you will have to make up. Some of you already have inclement weather days built into your calendar. And so if you already have inclement weather days built in to use in that 170 days, then you're fine. But if you do not have those days, or you're not going to go into the summer to make them up, you can still bill in COPA for those inclement weather days. So we're not looking to punish programs to be closed on inclement weather days. I know I've talked to a couple of people today already about that. And I've sent you the template for the plan. As long as you let us know the days that you're closed for, the remainder of the year, there's probably going to be some days in February, I would assume, that we'll continue to have weather. As long as you let us know about those days and you bill for them, or you put in attendance inclement weather so that we know about it. So how does the enrollment affect the budget that has already been submitted for this year? So your budget that was submitted already is not going to be affected. It's only the way that the payment is going to be made each month. It'll be based on enrollment. So we're not going to make any changes to your grant application that's been submitted.
So does that mean that we will still get our bottom line by the end of the year?
So what that means, Krista, is that you will be reimbursed according to the number of children that you have enrolled in your program. So I'm not sure how your budget was made on this current year, but I'm assuming that it was made on the amount of children that you were scheduled to have enrolled. So if
Right.
you are meeting that enrollment, that is the amount that you will be reimbursed. But if we have
Do,
programs who are not meeting that enrollment, you will be reimbursed on the number of children you have enrolled.
do non-ABC children count as enrolled children?
No, ma'am, they don't.
Okay.
I see. If you are not at 100%, what is the percentage that you look for? So, we are looking for 100% enrollment. However, we know that month over month, that is going to change. You're not always going to be 100%. And so really, I know a lot of times the number has been 85%. But I will say that we're looking for you to be 100% enrolled. There's not really another, magic number on enrollment. So, and again, now that we are going to be kind of reverting back to this enrollment based pay, that's really what you'll be wanting to look for and reach to as well as 100%. Amy said the kindergarten readiness that is discussed on page 1, is there a specific assessment that we are to use for this? There is not a current assessment that's specific that we have changed. I think
I'm going to jump in, Kayla.
I was about to say, I think I saw Tanya on. I was going to let you answer this one.
Yeah, well, so good afternoon. Sorry, guys, I have a standing IT meeting and I had to be a few minutes late, but sorry, I missed the first part. So the Department of Ed has kindergarten readiness assessments that they're doing, as many of you know, through Atlas. And so that is the standard for entering kindergarten children. We are working alongside to see if there's some opportunity, possibility to have an accompanying document for maybe pre-K 4. I don't think they'll do a birth to 5 system, but maybe a pre-K 4 something. But we're in the very early stages. And as many of you know, we're still working out some of the things with Atlas on the K2 side of the house. So stand by, but work sampling system is still the assessment tool that will be used in Arkansas Better Chance during the ABC program year. So we'll use ABC on our side and do those 3 collection points. And then when they go to kindergarten, the kindergarten teachers will do their Atlas portion for kindergarten entry until we identify what we might be using going forward. So it is really about alignment. We're looking at possibly aligning and having something in the Atlas system probably for PK4 as we go forward. But I don't see that happening, certainly not in this next school year, upcoming school year, maybe by the following after that 26-27 school year.
And I see some questions about pre-K ELA math. Are those still a requirement or just PD and early childhood? And so, yes, and that's a great next question. There's a follow-up that it's on the website, the list of trainings. And so please keep an eye out on the training section of our website. It's new. If you go there today, you will see that there are changes to our sections where it says trainings and opportunities. So we're going to be putting some information there about training, but we can go ahead and talk about PD. So we want you to meet your PD, and we want you to get those required trainings, but you as an agency can really build out what professional development looks like for you and your program. So if you have all new staff, they're probably all going to need to hit those major trainings. But if you've got several staff that are all veteran teachers and they've been in the program, you're not going to need to retake those things like pre-K ELA and those things you're not going to need to do again. And again, we want you to build out a professional development plan that looks appropriate for your agency. So if you are seeing a lot of challenging behaviors in your program and you want to take some conscious discipline trainings, or you want to look at some other trainings specific to your staff, then we want you to do that. So we will be putting out some list, but it is not going to be the same as it has in the past. So when you're thinking about professional development for the next school year, you may need to, obviously you're going to have to send your new staff to work sampling to get training for that. But you'll want to look into maybe some training for class, maybe some training for ECHRS if you haven't, and you're going to be getting scored. I know some people may still be getting scored for that. So we really want you to build out those plans based on your agency. So we are not going to be putting out the same list that you have seen in the past. And then let me go down. Oh, I see Lori already answered that question about the class pilot. Let's see. There's some specific questions about substitutes that have their associate's degree. And then, so Gaia, if you will you just directly email me your question and we can look into that. You said that you have someone that has an associate's, and you want her to work as a lead teacher. So that's one of those scenarios where we were talking about the new staff waiver that we've created for those that are not able to meet that lead teacher staffing pattern. You're not able to find staff that have that teaching license. And so if you will email me, we can work together on that and see if this waiver is right for you, or maybe an SQP would be right for this person.
Okay, thank you.
So the payment amounts will change monthly starting February based on the current enrollment and the 178 days. Exactly. So if you are going less days, then obviously that payment will be a little bit less for that month if you have less children, etc. Jenny said for programs that have both CCDF, federal pre-K and ABC, ABCSS, will we still use COPA? Yes. COPA, you will still use COPA for billing. None of that will change. And that's for federal pre-K as well. Correct, Brandy? They're not changing?
That's correct.
Okay. Yeah. How many days in attendance do children have to be? So if a child is in attendance one day of that month, you are able to bill for that child in COPA. So HIPPY is still required to have 30 hours of PD. So yes, none of the requirements for professional development have changed for any of our home visiting programs. And then as far as the trainings that are required, if they're required by like HIPPY International, if those trainings are required by them, you'll still need to do all of those trainings as normal. And then we already talked about the school readiness. Substantial portion of the day and free choice seems to have been removed. Is that no longer a requirement under 13.01?
Now I'm going to jump in on this one. As many of you know, we're in the pilot per the LEARNS Act for a new tool called CLASS, which is completely different than the environment rating scale, which substantial portion of the day is a big part of. So yes, any references to those things we're removing as we go forward. We anticipate that we'll be utilizing this new tool, although we're in a pilot and I can't say for certain, but I don't envision any of you calling me and saying, hey, never mind, I really want to use ERS. So we took all of those language pieces out that we could. I will tell you guys, this is our first attempt since the transition. And so there were some pretty basic changes that had to be made, removing DHS, removing Division of Child Care, and getting us into the Department of Ed and Office of Early Childhood. So this is a very first attempt at getting these rules and regs. There are going to be some bigger things coming, I think, as we move forward. But we were trying to get out references to specific tools and just say a state-approved assessment tool or a state-approved child assessment tool. So, you probably noticed some of that, but we'll keep you posted on here's the list of curriculum. Here's the list of this is the child assessment tool we use. This is the kindergarten entry assessment tool that the state is being used. So, but I hopefully that answers your question. I did see a question, and maybe we've answered this one, Kayla, on do we have to have a copy of that test? I don't know if you're talking about the Atlas or if that was in reference to another test, but you do. Do you know, Kayla? Because you don't have to have a copy of Atlas. We're not asking you to do that. But what you will want to do as an ABC program, in my opinion, is know how your children that are going into kindergarten are doing. It would be very important for you to go, how did all those children that I had in this classroom or this district do as they enter kindergarten? So you'll want to know that, but you don't have to have a copy of the test for us. That's not a requirement.
No.
The work sampling assessment tool that we currently use is for children in ABC, but not the Atlas testing.
Yes, and that's something that is kind of still in the works that they're still working through. So when we are monitoring, and if that's what we talked about monitoring a little bit earlier, we're not going to ask you for your work sampling or your other data collections. That is being looked at by your coach in work sampling. But if you have questions, feel free to reach out. If you have a para that is one-on-one with a student with disabilities, so they have to have 15 hours. If they are working in your program as a paraprofessional, they'll need to meet the 15-hour requirement. Is there a magic number for days? So yes, they need to at least attend 1 day a month. So, if you have a child that's only coming 1 or 2 days a month, and that's consistent, I would say that's probably something that you need to look at for attendance. Of course, there are things that happen. We've had children that have had medical situations where they've needed to be out extended amounts of times and things like that. So you can always reach out if you have one of those kind of case by case basis that we need to talk about. Let's see. So how do you want to log snow days due to weather in COPA? When you are in COPA and you're doing attendance, there should be a drop down for inclement weather, and you can select that option. I think, let's see, Lori already answered that question. So yeah, with the October count per year, will that be adjusted each year? For example, if you have 500 in 2025, will your count change? So we will look at the enrollment from October for the prior year each year when we are looking to take recommendations to the board. And usually that'll happen around March of that year. And so it could change. I mean, it really could. It just kind of depends. But we can't foretell what will happen in the future. But yes, it could vary year from year, just depending on what your enrollment looks like. And so facilities that have a waiting list and the need for collaboration with centers who are not full. So yeah, I mean, if you have other people in your community that are not full and you have a waiting list, if you're not already in contact with your local lead, please get in contact with them. They will be able to share with you that information for other centers that are in your communities, and you can work together. Think outside the box. What is right for your community? Do you have a wait list and there's a center down the road who's not full and you can recommend children and families to that site? Can you work together to see what will work for your community? Reach out to your local lead. They're going to be your main connection for all of that information for your community. Let's see, does enrollment payment include home visiting programs also? Yes, so this is for all ABC programs, including home visiting and center-based. I think I already answered that question. Are substitutes required to have 15 hours? So if you're hiring them on full-time in a permanent paraprofessional position, but if they are just a short-term or long-term sub, no, they would not need 15 hours of PD. And Tanya, you can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but they would not need to do, they would just need to meet minimum licensing requirements. Does home visitors still need a CDA or just 15 hours of early childhood? So nothing has changed on the requirement for home visitors. They still do need a CDA. And of course, if you need to send in a SQP or you have any specific questions about home visitors, please email me and we'll look into it and see what we can help with. So who do we email if we have questions afterwards? You can email me directly. My email's at the very top. I'll put it down here again. You can also email our COPA support that we put at the very beginning. You can email me if you have questions later. I know you're going to read these rules and probably have questions in the future. So, and if we do not have an answer today on anything and you email me, we will get an answer to you. Yes, Letitia answered that question. Anyone who wants to set up a meeting to discuss changing a round of slots or converting slots. If you have a home visiting and center-based program, you can email me and we can look at dates when we're all available and get on a Zoom. Is there a way to collect Atlas data for children in home visiting programs?
So I'm going to just for a second talk about Atlas. Some of you who are in school districts probably are aware there's a lot happening in that space right now to review that. I think how the test was given, there's just some questions. And so they're trying to work out some of those, the new tool. It's just part of a new process. And when we've all been living through new processes as we've made the transition over here to the Department of Ed as well. So just bear with our colleagues in K2 as they make those tweaks to that. But I think to answer that question, yes, at some point, the data about children entering kindergarten is going to be available publicly, just like Atlas data is for older children, upper grades. So we're just, we don't want to release data. I think the department, and I'm not in that space, I'm just working with my colleagues, Hope, Worsham in K-12, but that are really in that space more, but we've had a lot of training with them. And I think they're just trying to work through and make sure that we're getting the best information about our children. And we know that because it was new this year, and sometimes children in kindergarten who are just coming in, maybe just hitting buttons, and it might not be truly reflective of their knowledge. We just want to make sure that we have the right information. So that's why a lot of that hasn't been released for those early grades. So if you've been in a lot of that training, you may be aware of this. As we go forward in time and have this system in a better place for that, then that kind of information will be released. I don't know that it will separate it out by home visiting. You would need to be looking at your district. If you're in a district and you have knowledge, you can work with your teaching staff and you may get to know individually, but at a higher level, if you're working with a district, you're just going to want to know in your community, and that's where working with your local lead. We've already started some of this work with third grade reading scores, just to sort of backtrack and see how this district is doing or how this school or how this area is doing. So, but right now it's not going to be divided out. I don't think any of that information is even being pushed out, but it will be over time in a more high level way. So just be prepared for that. And if we can help, if we can work through a local lead with a local lead, maybe we can tease out a little more specifically. But I would encourage you to work with your school districts. If you're a co-op, if you're a different partner in home visiting, just work with your district. We all want the same thing. We all want to know that what we're doing over in this early childhood space is feeding into this K-12 space, and that children are ready for learning, and that the school is ready for the children that we're going to be sending them, and that we're all together on how that needs to look and what's happening. So, there's a lot of newness to all of this. So just bear with all of us as we work through implementing Atlas for really K-10. But especially for those early grades. And I do want to assure those on the call who in the early childhood world who heard me talk about working with Atlas and Cambian on something for PK4, we're not looking at something where 4-year-olds are going to be in front of a computer screen pushing buttons. We are looking at a teacher-administered type assessment, which is more appropriate for 4-year-olds. So just know it'll be more of a teacher observation type thing. So it will look very different. And we may or may not be able to do that with Cambian, but we are hoping, and we're really wanting to align the work along early childhood with K2, especially, or kindergarten especially. So hopefully that helps, but and we will keep you posted as more of that information starts coming out, but work with your local leads and your school district as we move forward.
Yes, and your local leads, if they have not reached out to you already, you can find your local lead on our website. You can also email me. I'm going to put my email in the chat box, and we can make sure and get you in touch. And I saw a couple of questions about lead teachers and certified teachers. Professional development has not changed for those. It is still 30 hours that is required for us. And Ramona actually posted, and that's correct. So if your district has a different number, if they require 36 or even more hours, you need to follow what your district requires, but the Office of Early Childhood, ABC, only requires 30 hours, and that has not changed. And then Nikki asked about the amount per child going up. As of now, we don't have that information. If there is changes in the funding amount of per child, we will get that information out to you as quickly as possible. And I know we've got a few more minutes left, so I did put my information there in the chat again, my cell phone number and my email. So if you have a question later or it did not get answered, please send me an email, and we will make sure and get an answer for you. Let me make sure we didn't miss anything.
Kayla, I'm gonna, if you don't mind, I'm gonna jump in just a minute. I
Yes.
did a couple of direct chats sent regarding the class pilot. I did drop the local leads website in the chat. If you are interested in participating in the class pilot, you would reach out to your local lead. They are putting together our pilot participants. We are keeping that small right now as this is the learning year, as not only our programs are learning the new tool, our state observers are as well, but all class pilot participation will go directly through local leads. So again, if you are interested in participating or learning more about the class tool, please reach out to your local lead in your catchment area. And they are listed, their direct contacts are listed on that local lead webpage.
See if there's any other questions in the chat. So there is a question about the difference between federal funding and ABCSS. Is there a way that programs can help support an increase in funding for the state program? So I'm going to let Ms. Tanya take this question.
Yeah, so I think most people are probably aware we are getting ready to go into legislative session. I have no control and I have no crystal ball about what is happening. I'm not aware of any suggestion for an increase. If I knew it, I would tell you today that there may be possibilities. But that is where it is a state administered program and a state funded program. That is where those decisions lie. But I have not been privy to any information about whether or not an increase is going to happen or not. But that is something, you can talk to your officials, your local officials, and suggest that. I will tell you the reason there is because federally we are mandated to address the rates. And we have to submit that to the federal government in order to receive the child care block grant where that funding comes from. And so because we're addressing that on a frequent basis, that's why those rates look different. And the ABC funding has not had any increase in a very long time, as you all are aware. So I too am aware that there's a big discrepancy in that, but I have to adhere to the federal guidelines in order to receive those funds, and I don't want to lose those. But I'm hopeful, and I remain hopeful that that ABC will be acknowledged. And but I just encourage you guys to talk to those people around you who may be able to make that decision. And we will definitely, you need to be paying attention during session and watching what's happening.
Yeah, absolutely. And if anyone has questions about other types of funding like CCDF and how to serve infants and toddlers in your program, feel free to reach out to myself and I will make sure and try to help assist you in the best way possible. So looks like it's about 1 o'clock. I'm going to let everyone go on time. I have posted the link and the dates below in the chat box. So our next meeting is going to be January 15th, which is next week, same time. We will go over a lot of the same things, but there will be a couple of changes that we'll talk about. If there is something that we really need to talk about we didn't get to today, send me an email. I would love your suggestions and we can add that to hopefully our agenda for next year. A universal tool for enrollment or registration.
Yeah, I'll take that one right quick as we're kind of ending this call, and I'm glad you mentioned Kayla. She's going to be doing these for the next several weeks into the next month or two, and we definitely want to keep in touch with you all. So this team, Brandy's team, who's over ABC and CCDF and Early Head Start Child Care Partnerships that we administer at the state, has just released the school readiness assistance tool, which is for the child care development block grant, what formerly was called vouchers, child care assistance. So they released that in December. We are working with the department. Our hope is that eventually, and I don't think it will be in the next school year, but that at some point, all of the children that we're serving through the Office of Early Childhood will be in that school readiness assistance portal. Like everything will be there. So if you're doing child care development funds right now, CCDF, then you already familiar with that possibly, and maybe in both of these systems with COPA and the SRA system that we just launched in December. But our goal is to get all of the children that we serve. So I don't really predict that will be this coming school year. I think the department's team, like we are still working through processing this new system and implementation, and it still has some kinks that we're working through. And I don't think a regent and his team will be ready for the ABC portion, but that is the long-term goal. And by the 26-27 school year, I would imagine that that would be where we will start putting ABC children, and it would be a universal enrollment. And we did change the application for SRA to match ABC, so that it's one application for those programs that are serving both groups, the different populations that we serve. So it is a universal application now, but the tools are in two separate places, two different data systems. But our goal is, yes, to get there over the coming 2 years. And I think Brandy and Kayla, thank you guys. I think we'll conclude here. Please get your questions. I know some of you, I see some questions. We'll try to capture all of them that didn't get answered. If you have something outstanding, let Kayla know so that we can address it next time, or we can address it with you individually to make sure that we cover it, because this was a way to network and bring you guys together and make sure and really do it in an ongoing way so that we can have that. We might not do it weekly going forward, but maybe we could have a monthly or quarterly checkpoint like this with you all, so that we have frequent touch points.
Thank you. Stay safe, stay warm.
Bye-bye.
Bye.